It's not really the technology, it's about the market. It's about having a holistic view of what it is you're building and where it's going. And it's also fitting it into the timeline of where the market's at. Because you can have an idea that's fantastic that doesn't really fly because the market's just not ready for it.
I've definitely seen a lot of organizations are struggling with dealing with that, where they're like, if I've got a million ideas coming from the customer service reps that are bringing ideas, HR is bringing ideas. Do you have any words of advice for how to deal with innovation onslaught?
When I look at what AI can do, and this is something I've seen personally myself, everybody out there today actually can be a builder if they want to be with AI.
Welcome to another episode of AI Product Leader. Every week, we shine a light on what it really takes to join the AI world. Real conversations with real AI builders, product leaders, founders, AI experts, technologists, and everything in between to understand where the world of AI is right now and what that path looks like, whether you're building AI products or a career in AI. I'm your host, Polly Allen, founder of AI Career Boost, where I spend my time helping product leaders thrive and become indispensable in roles in AI, leading transformations and teams building AI products. And I'm really excited today to have our guest joining us. Arun Biligiri has spent more than 2 decades turning emerging technology into measurable business outcomes. From founding startups to leading major platform portfolios at places like IBM and Hitachi, he's managed over 500 million P&Ls, driven 100 million plus new revenue, and helped modernize enterprise software at a global scale. And today he's the founder of Mitova.ai, an AI native innovation platform, and it's designed to help organizations move beyond prototype chaos to build accountable and scalable AI programs that actually deliver results. Something that's all too rare in today's AI fervor. With deep expertise spanning Gen AI, agentic systems, cloud platforms, and enterprise transformation, Arun is known for combining strategic clarity with hands-on execution. And his approach is grounded in one core belief: in the AI era, outcomes matter more than demos. Arun, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Polly. I really appreciate it. This has been a fantastic opportunity to come talk to you.
Yeah, well, I'm super excited because it's rare that we have someone with your depth and background in emerging technologies and harnessing, like, right what it is at the cutting edge, come in and talk about innovation in a way that's so grounded in hands-on experience at these really big companies and had so much impact. I'd love to chat about how did you get started in the innovation space? What drew you to this, and how did you start out, becoming such an expert in that particular space?
The interesting part for me was I started my career coming out of school essentially in startups. And for multiple reasons and being acquired into IBM, I stayed there for a long time. I got a lot of opportunities actually within IBM to run development. I actually ran sales engineering. I ran services. I ran product management. And so I ran sort of different parts of the business effectively. And very often, the thing that sort of created sort of intrigue was taking stuff out of the lab and actually creating products out of it. That sort of got me down the pathway as sort of a startup mindset and sort of taking things out of the lab and trying to make something real. Sort of gave me sort of that idea of, how do you take something that's half baked, conceptual, and into something that's real that actually works. And the other thing I learned as I went through that journey as well is very often that's actually a risky journey in large enterprise because for most part, maybe two, three ideas out of 10 actually succeed, and you don't. And really, the penalty for the don't is higher than the penalty for the do. But it became sort of a focus of mine to sort of figure out how do you really ensure that these things get successful, what it takes. And it's not really the technology, it's about the market. It's about having a holistic view of what it is you're building and where it's going. And it's also fitting it into the timeline of where the market's at. Because you can have an idea that's fantastic that doesn't really fly because the market's just not ready for it. It may be 5 years later. And that's sort of what happened in my first startup coming in is, built everything out. And it turns out that eventually in the early 2000s, when the market had really tanked for VCs, uh, we sold out the business. But essentially at that point, I realized that no, the idea was a little too early for market. So you got to figure out a lot of factors and have an understanding where the market's at. And so that sort of got me interested in this space.
And I think it's so clear right now. People are still running into that piece now where they that message of the product market fit that's not there. There's no
Right.
building the right thing, no matter how many hoops you jump through. So were you do you feel like you were able to improve the odds of success? Like what were the key factors for
I
success?
think at a fundamental level, where I found the best success was where there was transparency in product build.
Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges I found in most organizations is um, you're making big bets
Mm,
based on people relationships or so and so knows something or whatever
yeah.
else. Let's put 5 million behind it, rather than having a system to actually deal with it. Having to figure out the there are lots of people with lots of ideas. In fact, in the past, this may not have been a big deal or not that big a problem. But when I look at what AI can do, and this is something I've seen personally myself, everybody out there today is actually can be a builder if they want to be with AI. In the past, there's about 5% of the company that could do it.
Right.
And so you were limited extensively by capability and resources that didn't enable you to do a lot. And then when you did it, you had to make big investments in the hope it succeeded.
Hmm.
We're in a different era now because now you've got AI that can really fundamentally help you. Sort of what I would call cost of prototyping down to literally zero,
Yeah.
and identifying product market fit is way cheaper than it used to be before. So the fundamental model for me is I think with AI, we're creating a large problem, but we're also creating a solution space as well.
So we're creating a large problem because anyone can build.
Anyone can build, and people. So then I've had people come in and say, "Hey, I built this app. I was sitting there yesterday.
Yeah.
I've got my own app to do this." And I think that's really going to increase. And the innovation space is not just going to be in the engineering world.
Right.
It's going to be your marketing guys are going to innovate differently.
Yeah.
Your HR person can innovate now. These are not things that you could do before.
Yeah.
And I think fundamentally, that's what's changed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've definitely seen a lot of organizations are struggling with dealing with that, where they're like, if I've got a million ideas coming from the customer
Correct.
service reps that bringing ideas, HR is bringing ideas. Do you have any words of advice for how to deal with like innovation onslaught everywhere?
So that was sort of so just a quick sidestep to kind of where I landed up, right?
Yeah.
So when I left Hitachi last year, yeah, the thing I was wondering about is, hey, what would I have done better if I had something of some sort to help me? Because I was driving a lot of stuff around what do you call the innovation projects that were going on in Hitachi.
Yeah.
And that sort of became the basis of sort of the thought process of saying, look, what I need is a system that creates one transparency, creates what I would call innovation at scale capabilities. Because now, if everybody's innovating, imagine how having 500 people innovating and who's going to gauge whether any of this stuff is valuable or not. Because you're creating a multidimensional problem now. So that was sort of the concept around try to bring together a system of governance that's management at scale, bring AI agents into the picture to help in that process. Because the third most important is actually bringing AI coding into the equation because that enables you to sort of be able to one create solutions faster, but also maintain solutions faster. One of the things I'm particularly proud of is the fact that now I have a system where with a solution you can actually input your feature request and I have AI actually going in, evaluating it, and actually prioritizing it based on criteria, and actually then just implementing it as well if you choose to implement. So it creates a virtuous circle of sorts where you're reacting to the market dynamically as opposed to statically as in the past. But you always have to balance that with quality and other things. So you kind of need to keep both in check. But I think that's the opportunity that AI has brought to the table is it's creating the tools necessary to manage innovation at scale.
Amazing. And that's been the birth of your current startup, right? At Mitova?
That is correct. So Mitova was started off with that fundamental idea of ova is sort of the seed, and Mitova is the mitochondria that drives growth.
Nice.
And I always heard from most companies or people who tell me, companies can't innovate. The only way to growth is either buy companies or fund startups or whatever else. We can't grow because we just don't have the culture or the ability to grow. And I've always found that to be a particularly unhelpful position because I think companies can if they choose to. And that's sort of where I want to be in that space of saying, look, I can help, and I can help not necessarily by giving you PowerPoint. And I've always been sort of against this concept of PowerPoint engineering, where you throw a PowerPoint at somebody and leave. And I came from management consulting in the past, and I found that I left that career real quick because I just wasn't into the idea of throwing something over the fence and saying, you go deal with it.
You actually
After,
build it.
yeah. So I want to be a builder. And I think enabling other builders to go succeed is what gives me sort of the joy in this.
Amazing. So how does Mitova do that? Can you talk a little bit high level? It's a tool for managing innovation at larger companies, right? Which they're struggling. It's been so surprising to me to see how far behind they're lagging. The startups that are moving fast, embracing AI first methodologies. Enterprise is really struggling. How does Mitova help them get over that hurdle?
So the fundamental premise is you need the ability to one, what you would call build a pipeline of innovation. Structurally, one of the biggest challenges is the pipeline tends to be very small. And from there, it's whittled down, not too much, and we throw lots of dollars behind it. So the concept is you invest small dollars in large pipelines and identify the ones that have product market fit before you make any significant investments. So that's the model. So you think of it as an innovation pipeline, starting from what you would call the ideation phase to what you would call the build phase, what do you call the invest phase, and what do you call production, right? So it's really sort of taking 100 ideas down to about 3 or 4 that actually succeed, but having that pathway and building yourself what you call institutional memory in terms of who can do what, where, how, and who succeeds. This is the kind of thinking that enables most organizations to kind of shift the focus from having meetings into doing things. And that's sort of the focus.
Everyone is down on meetings, down on managers. I'd love to talk about that because I do think there's a distinction, right, between this, what you called PowerPoint measurement, right? Let me tell you what to do, let me provide wisdom. But on the flip side, there's this encouragement right now. All managers need to become super ICs, be running around on the ground and doing everything hands on. Is there something in between? What do you think is the model a monitor should be aspiring to right now?
I actually think there is it's got to be a combination. Like anything else, we either go one way extreme or the other extreme. But I think we're fundamentally missing the point that I think it's a concept. What people, the one thing I say when I come back and, I say people with gray hair, you know, I'm not going to say I'm the best programmer out there or whatever else, but that's not what I bring to the table. What I bring to the table is the ability to sort of make quick decisions, ability to gauge risk, make those kinds of decisions. And those are things that come from leaders. And the doing part is people understanding how to do it by actually doing it. So you make better decisions and you better risks by actually being able to do something. So I look at it as a combination of your value proposition is that ability to take risk, the ability to do, uh, something in the space that you understand with what I call domain expertise. But on the flip side of it, also understanding the reality of what you're dealing with from a tool set perspective and the concept of being able to deal with customers with prototypes, not deal with customers and PowerPoint. And I think that fundamentally changes the dynamic of what I call product market fit assessment as well.
Absolutely. It spins quicker. You didn't have to have a meeting
Yes.
before the meeting where they got to see the prototype.
Right.
So, and to exemplify that, you've been really hands-on with your startup. You built the first MVP of this yourself, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So I started off, through in fact, Polly, the capstone we built, and one of the learnings for me was getting out of your comfort zone always needs a problem set to solve, um, and having a problem set enables you to kind of be sort of experimental and try things. That sort of drove me down the pathway of sort of saying, hey, let's what's the worst can happen here, right? I'm going to learn something. Whether I build a company or not is not the relevant issue. I can learn something out of it. I benefit from it. And the result of it turned out to be something much more than what I anticipated. In fact, as discussions we had earlier sometimes was around, hey, this is going faster than I thought because AI is just evolving faster. When I looked at AI tools 6 months back, completely different from what they are today. So you don't have an assessment of where the landscape is. And I don't think I can predict where it's going to be 6 months out.
Right. Absolutely.
But doing it is the only way to find out.
And did you feel like you were leaning on your tech background to build it? Had you been programming recently, or was this?
I had not programmed of any significance for 2.5 decades, maybe. But I'd managed teams. I knew the programming paradigms. And the thing I learned from AI is AI is not about building things faster. It's really about the biggest benefit I saw from AI is test. It's ultimately design in terms of being able to design actively. And the thing that I found very useful from a startup perspective, I'm thinking about it, what's the cost going to be?
Mm,
Is actually modeling cost before I actually build something.
that's such a good idea.
So this really sort of changed the dynamic of, so it's not really the building may be interesting and I'm writing code and whatever else, but I found the ability to sort of make decisions based on scenarios ahead of time and use that and then use testing and building. In fact, as I built this out, I run what do you call a code health dashboard every time I push PRs.
Yeah.
And so I know where I am from a test perspective. And I'm really understand the dynamics of where my code's at. And if there's anything kind of lagging behind, I go back and refactor it.
Right.
So it gives you that iterative process where you can actually be successful long term as opposed to sort of building everything and we'll say we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, absolutely. Or having to deal with a big giant refactor of this mess you've made to get to product market fit.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at is you build it iteratively. It costs very little in the AI world to do that.
Yeah.
In the physical, traditional software development world, it was a huge cost and nobody ever did it.
Right. Exactly. They waited until it failed, or or went on
That's right.
out.
That's right.
Absolutely. Well, it's an amazing transformation, and I think it just exemplifies that like that player coach mentality of like I'm willing to get into the weeds, but I don't necessarily disregard everything I've built up as a leader because that's going to be where my superpowers really lie.
And you know what? That is the particularly critical insight that I also have gauged is the value I bring is not because I can build code. The value I bring is the ability to sort of understand market spaces, take the right sort of pathways,
Yeah.
and then also know when I've failed. Because I think that's the other thing that we tend to sort of say everything's not going to succeed, but knowing when to back off of that and go try something different is also particularly, and then also keeping a clear ear for customers. The other thing I found is now that I know I can build anything, I have a year for what customers really need,
Great.
uh, as opposed to being tied down to the concept of I'm not sure I can implement it. Let's not even go there. Right
Right.
now, I feel like I've got infinite capacity,
I mean,
just in that concept.
oh, incredible. Absolutely. And it's working. You're already getting some of your first beta customers.
So yeah, we've got beta customers already in place, and I'm particularly happy sort of moving fast
Hmm.
because this is not something that took years to develop, right? And so that for me, that's where I feel like I've been enabled and sort of given sort of this team of whatever 10 or 15 engineers that are actually listening to feedback. And the other thing that I've always done as I went down this AI journey was I use AI largely, 80% of my time is actually planning,
Yeah. Yeah.
20% of my time is doing.
Yeah.
Is it's really the planning is where AI may be lacking a little bit,
Hmm.
but it's doing it's actually pretty good at it.
Right. If you're really clear on exactly what you want to build and how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other challenge I saw for me, at least with AI, was it's giving up control. This is what I found actually with people that I work with or engineers or trying to use AI is it's a concept of giving up control is difficult.
Mm. Mm.
Because if you've been engineering in the past, it's a
Yeah.
little bit of I'm not valuable enough,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
the thing I found actually was it's that ability to give up control and sort of say, look, there is something that can do it, but I need to build safeguards around it. So most of the time is building safeguards around what it's doing.
I
But then I let it run.
Yeah, gotcha. What kind of, just as a quick example, can you give any tips and tricks about like what kind of safeguards do you build in when you're asking it to build a feature?
Well, just in terms of regression test suites, in terms of integration test suites, in terms of end-to-end testing.
Yeah.
So I've kind of built testing into it. The other thing that I've done is what you would call design-driven development.
Hmm.
For most part, I write the spec. I've written everything well before,
Yeah.
and and when I turn something on, everything is fairly well defined. So context is well defined.
Yeah.
So the feature comes out relatively well established, as opposed to kind of building something and hoping it does what I wanted it to do.
Right.
So that's the difference.
Yeah. Amazing. There's just a little more structure you can add to your software process, but you don't have to be an engineer to do that again, right? I think that's the
That's,
people don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're correct. As long as you know that that needs to be done,
Yeah.
and that's part of your process, you don't need to be an engineer to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So guiding people through that process has been amazing to see light bulbs go off with like, oh wait. Amazing. So I love that how hands-on you're being as a senior leader who's driven all this innovation in the past. What advice do you have for other people who are maybe still in PowerPoint land, feel like they're too much in PowerPoint land, want to know how to get their hands around AI and get hands-on with these tools?
So I think I mentioned this in the earlier in this discussion as well. I think the critical thing for me, the switch to getting to doing, is identifying a problem to go do
Yeah.
solve.
Yeah.
And I think when you have a problem to solve, the second thing you've got to be able to do in your mindset is knowing that you're going to have trouble starting. That doesn't necessarily mean that this is a linear curve. When I saw my journey was probably the first 2 weeks was sort of flat a
Yeah.
little bit. I understand maybe it could, but it is an exponential curve in terms of progress that I've made. So I think to me, it's sort of sticking at it, doing it, and actually focusing on a problem to solve
Yeah.
is a particularly good way of sort of getting your hands dirty.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And doing that through the Blueprint program, it was great to see that capstone kind of take off midway of like, oh,
Well,
wait, this is compounding.
that's exactly kind of the point of view I had is initial was first 2 3 weeks. It's like, oh, yeah, I learned something, but 4 5 6, and it changed trajectories.
Yeah.
So to me, that's sort of the mindset I have, at least when I tell people who want to do this, is stick at it, stick to it, because you will see progress, dramatic progress, once you sort of hit the knee of the curve.
Amazing. It's almost the reverse of using these vibe coding tools like Lovable, where they give you the instant bang and you're like, I'm 80% of the way there, but now I'm going to struggle. This is like, hey, this might take slower to burn, but
And actually, you know what? You're right in that I started with Lovable.
yeah.
And I gave it up real quick because what it did was it hid a lot of complexity,
Mm,
which also meant it hid a lot of reality for me in terms of building production software.
yeah.
It's great for prototyping, but it's not good for production software. I've developed production or delivered production software to market multiple years and decades now. And so I felt like staying in the cloud code domain and staying in the GCP domain gave me sort of the ability to sort of take something forward, dealing with all the warts the systems have, and being able to put guardrails around it.
Yeah. And maybe trusting yourself to deal with a little more of that complexity than you were comfortable
Correct.
with 2 weeks ago.
Correct.
Awesome. Fantastic. Oh, well, thanks so much again for joining us, Arun. We have time for one last section, and that is plugs. Is there anything you want to plug? Any way that you want, any people you want to connect with? How should people get a hold of you?
Yeah. So let me. I love again, as I said, connecting with the Blueprint group. Fantastic group of people. Everybody's sort of in that same domain. Sorry, in that same space of trying to learn where AI could take their journeys. But where I'm at is I'd love to talk to people that are interested, what you would call in the innovation space, figuring out, there is a problem around governing innovation. If you've got a problem around
Mhm.
governing it, I'd go to Mitova, Mitova.ai, and reach out to me there directly. Also find me on LinkedIn as well. I'd love to talk to people. It's not about, I'm not necessarily, yeah, looking for clients. I'm looking for like-minded individuals who are trying to go figure out how do we solve this problem much more significant, in a significant manner. And I'd love to reach out to people, have discussions and conversations. I'd love to do that.
Fantastic. We'll include your LinkedIn in the show notes, and of course, the link to Mitova for folks who are interested. Arun's email, even if he's willing to share it. And please reach out and connect with him. We love building that community of builder leaders and player coaches. Amazing. Thanks again so much, Arun, for all your wisdom and for sharing with our audience. And that's it for this week's AI Product Leader. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate it.